Hey guys, I'm dating to teach. This is Beauty Manifested. I am on my way home and I have a word on relationships, specifically like casual relationships and dating before marriage. So, I'm a woman and I think we've all had experiences, probably since girlhood, where you just kind of get stuck on someone. Okay, maybe we haven't. I have a girlfriend, and one thing about her is she will move on. Like, she will move on. She's not married yet either, so she still hasn't met the one, but she does not just get stuck on the same guy. Like, it's always a new guy that I hear her talking about, which I love that for her. But for me, I have kind of a different archetype. She's a fire sign and I'm mostly earth. I'm always bringing astrology into it, but I tend to get like attached to one person for years, literally. And like, it's not that I don't date other people in that time frame, but like the person who's really in my heart, it's usually just one person at a time and they will stay there for years. And so I was kind of thinking about, like, I'm currently in a life transition. Like, I've changed and evolved and matured a lot as a person. Like 2023, I feel really matured me, and I want to do things the right way now. Not that there's a right way, but there kind of is. Like, I want to listen to my mother. I want to follow a traditional path. I want to do things the realistic way, I suppose. And I used to be different than that. And so my grandmother used to always tell me that to get yourself some business. Like, anytime that you find yourself like worrying about what someone else has going on, and this is pertaining to life but also pertaining to relationships, like if you're like, oh, when is he gonna text me, like whatever type of worries you might have, she's like, get yourself some business. Like, if you had your own life to be worried about and you were busy, you wouldn't be worried about somebody else. And other people talk about that too, like have a full and complete life. And I understood that in theory, but now I'm in this place where I'm like very busy. And then also I just stopped talking to someone who I've been stuck on for like a while. And like, it feels so much easier this time. Like, I don't spend all day thinking about him because I'm busy doing things all day. And I also, part of it has been like, I've been building this up for a while now. That's part of it. Two, this has been going on with him for a while now. And he's really kind of like, it's kind of too far gone at this point. So there's also that, like, I'm emotionally over it, so that makes it easier. And then also I've been like doing inner work for a while now, building up my self-esteem, so that makes it easier. And then three, I'm also busy, and then so that makes it easiest. But I will say, I feel like it's finally clicking. Like, get yourself some business, have some very specific goals for your life that you're working towards at all times, because an idle mind really is the devil's playground. Like, I find myself most tempted into temptation when I don't have enough going on for myself, and like I'm feeling kind of bored and lonely, and not necessarily due to lack of a partner, but sometimes it feels like the easiest thing to fill that boredom and loneliness with is a partner, just out of like sheer laziness, honestly. And then a lot of times, like, if you go, this is vulnerable, but at the same time, like, we've all been there, so I don't feel like anyone's going to be judging me, and if they are, like, I don't really care. But I think we found ourselves in places where we're like laid up with someone for like hours. Like, you just, like, I've had times like this specific person who I just recently cut off, or not even, I'm trying to be like really peaceful about it. Like, I didn't block him because I'm trying not to make a big deal out of it, because it's not really a big deal. Like, it's just like, I just don't like it. Like, it's just not what I want it to be. It's not how I envision like my husband showing up in my life. And so it's no bad blood. I'm not angry. I'm just pretty much indifferent. Like, I'm like, okay, like, I feel that I've played my best hand. I've done everything I can do, and I'm not getting the result that I want. And so I'm just going to move on respectfully. So that's how I'm at with that. And so I'm kind of going through that. And I'm thinking back on times when I like would spend a whole day with this man, like really not doing anything. And sometimes like I'd be there hanging out with him and he'd be getting stuff done because he had his computer, but I didn't have my computer with me. And granted, I probably could have used his computer, but like I didn't. So basically, I didn't get anything done. in a whole day that I spent with him. And like, one, that probably reflects poorly on me, like, because he's probably looking at me as someone who just doesn't really value her time, doesn't have a lot going on in her life, because like, what kind of person can just come like lay up under you all day, you know? So that's one thing, like the perception of it. But then also me, like, yeah, exactly, like what kind of person can just go lay up under somebody all day? Like, how come you don't have plans? Like, how come you don't have places to be? How come you don't have deadlines and due dates and things going on? Like, what's going on? And then that kind of leads me back to, this is a whole ramble and rant, but if you follow this channel, then you're interested in storytelling, because that's what this channel is for. So that leads me back to my journey in entrepreneurship. And I always loved the freedom that entrepreneurship brought. And that was basically what drove me. And I used to think that my number one motivator was freedom. But now, as I'm maturing, I think it's something else, because like, I didn't do well with that freedom. I didn't have the maturity. I was too young. I don't know. I'm not going to make excuses, but all I know is I was not a good steward of that freedom at all. Like, I was using my freedom not to make more money, or like, not even to enjoy my life more, but to be laid up with a man. Like, girl, you need to just go ahead and get a job, occupy your time with something fruitful and fulfilling and productive, and then just do that every single day of your life. Maybe not forever. Like, I mean, I don't know what will come. I go through many different seasons and cycles, but for right now, I know for sure it's like, I just need to pour myself into my routines and my work and things like that, my healthy habits, because pouring into people hasn't really gotten me anywhere. Anywhere. I may be speaking from like a bias right now, or like, you know, like an emotional bias where I feel away, so I'm speaking in absolutes, but I can't think of anything that has come from like pouring myself into people. Now granted, on Sunday I did spend some time with my girlfriends. I went to tea with one girlfriend, I stopped by another girlfriend's apartment, and then I did 2 phone calls with girlfriends, and I talked to my sister, and I felt like that was a productive use of time, like pouring into my female relationships, sharing with them what I'm working towards so that they can support me, and already a lot has come from that. So I do feel that pouring into people in that way has been a good use of time, but like men specifically, no. And I know like my pouring in is different than other people's pouring in, which is a critique I've heard sometimes. Like, yeah, like some men who hate women, they might not look at me spending time with a man as pouring into him. Like, oh, you didn't do anything, contribute to his life. I would beg to differ. Like, I feel that giving my time to someone is pouring into them. And so I gave this person my time, and I feel that it wasn't really a good investment, because there's no return. So I will not be doing that any longer, at least not for that person specifically. And I'm glad that happened with that person, because I feel like it's allowed me to take a step back, view my life a little bit differently, and then value my time more preciously, because I've seen the impact of not valuing it. And I've seen also the impact of valuing it, and like how much can come from devoting yourself to something. And now I'm like, okay, well, with that time, if I had put that into this, I could have had these results, but instead I was putting it into that, and I didn't have any results. And so, yeah. And I kind of see now, like, they always criticize women who are maybe like unmarried, no kids, who have poured into their careers, and they're like, oh, they're old and lonely, and they're selfish, and all they do is pour themselves into their work. And I probably used to critique those women, but I'm not in a place to critique those women anymore, because with work, I feel the more that you put in, the more that you get out. Whereas sometimes in dating, if you're in like a marriage, then hopefully the more you put in, the more you get out. And I pray for that sort of relationship. I pray that God will bless me with that. But just like in dating, the more you put in is not the more that you get out. And so I just don't feel like it's a very good investment of time, at least for me right now. Like, maybe there'll be a point in my career, probably never, but maybe there'll be a point where I just feel like everything is so automated and so habitual, and so I'm like such a master of my craft that it doesn't require a lot of effort on my part. And so I'll be able to pour more time into romantic relationships, or maybe hopefully I would find a partner who pours into me in a way that I don't have to pour. It's not that I don't have to pour into him, but it feels like it's a better investment of time. Like, it feels more of a priority. But at this point in time, it just doesn't, it seems like a waste of time, to be honest. Like, I'm not accepting dates right now, because like, literally, just for what? Like, I think I'm just for what? I just don't want to, basically. So that's how I feel. And that's what I told my friends too. Like, I'm like, I'm on hiatus, and they're like, we don't believe you. And I'm like, no, I'm really on hiatus. Like, I'm so sick. No, I'm not so sick. Like, that's like negative. Like, I'm so excited about my own journey and my own goals. Like, I'm so full of my own pursuit of happiness that I just don't want to spend any time with anyone else who's not committed to that goal with me. And that's it. So, jeez. Okay, and then this is my last thought on the relationship subject, and I don't know how relevant it is, but it's just how I'm thinking right now. I grew up in like a middle class to upper middle class town, and I knew people of many different income levels, but the women who I felt like grew up in very stable households, they always had everything they wanted and needed. A lot of times I saw them fall into toxic relationships. Not always, but a lot of times. And I fell into some toxic relationships that literally made sense. Like, I never saw anything like that at home. Like, I don't know what was going on. It was just a phase or something. And I was thinking about, like, my grandma, like, get yourself some business thing. And she was never one, well, I guess I don't know all her reasons, but according to her, she was never one to fall into toxic relationships, because she says the reasons that she is really just a very selfish person. And she coined the motto of get yourself some business. And so I was thinking, I'm like, I feel like, from what I've seen, like, some of my friends who got into like these weird toxic relationships, it's honestly because they were bored. The guy who was like a little toxic was basically a loser and had a lot of time on his hands because he didn't have any business either. Like, and he was just like a cool guy, and then they would just hang out. And I've been in that situation. And I'm thinking now, I'm like, it's the privilege. It's the privilege. Like, we do not all have the luxury of just like hanging out with someone all day. Like, it's only because I had a business that gave me so much freedom that I could even spend all day with some guy like this. Like, a lot of people have work to do. Like, they don't have the luxury of just hanging out, chilling, la-di-da-di-da. Like, no. And so I don't know what my closing statement is on that. It's like, one, if you've been in an environment that doesn't provide a lot of restrictions, sometimes you have to, not sometimes, always, you have to restrict yourself. You have to create barriers for yourself. You have to create guidelines, rules, procedures for your life. You need to run your life as you would run a business. And that's how these influencers are becoming very successful, because they're monetizing their life by running their life like a business. They are the product, their life is the business, and they take it that seriously, and that is how you win. If you just treat your life like lackadaisical, I may have said that wrong, then that's what it's gonna be. Like, know your numbers, basically. Know your numbers. Have a vision statement, a mission statement for your life. This is how the influencer girlies are winning. They're running their life like a business, and that is how you monetize everything that you do. Peace. Capitalism for the win.